Have you ever wondered? Hello everyone, welcome back to Inquisitive Creation. My name is Gilo, and I will be your trusted companion to explain things you ever wondered about but does not exactly know what they are. Today, we are embarking on a journey through time and biology as we explore the fascinating world of science called epigenetic transgenerational inheritance. Have you ever wondered why you are the way you are? Why you might share certain traits or susceptibilities with your ancestors, even those that have been long gone? Imagine this, the experiences of your great-great-grandparents imprinted on your very DNA. Sounds like science fiction, right? But it's real. From wars to famines, from triumphs to traumas, the lives of our ancestors have left an indelible mark, echoing through the generations. But how does it work? How do the experiences of generations past shape our present and future? Everyone's heard of the genome, right? Genome is the complete set of genetic material within an organism. It contains all the instructions needed to build, maintain, and regulate an organism's cells and functions. The genome is composed of deoxyribonucleic acid, or DNA, which is organized into structures called chromosomes in organisms like plants, animals, and humans. Each chromosome contains many genes, which are segments of DNA that encode specific proteins or functional RNA molecules. Think of the genome as a set of instructions for building and running an organism, like a recipe book for life. Just like how a recipe book has different recipes for different dishes, the genome contains sections called genes that give instructions for making proteins and other important molecules. Now, there's another layer of complexity responsible for creating us, and that's the epigenome. Our epigenome sits in our cells with our genome. It's a set of instructions that decides which bits of our DNA are activated, or which genes are switched on or switched off. Think of our genome as the unique song of us, and our epigenomes are the audio engineers that decide how that music will be played, which bits are loud or edited out, whether the melody is dominant or maybe the drums are lost altogether. Throughout our life, our genome stays constant, but our epigenomes are more fluid. They change as we develop, such as during puberty, but also due to a host of other reasons that scientists are just starting to understand. The field of study of our epigenome is called epigenetics. In the intricate dance of heredity, there exists a hidden layer of influence, where the actions of our ancestors leave an indelible mark on our very being. Imagine a scenario where the experiences of our great-great-grandparents, whether it be famine, stress, or trauma, could resonate through generations, shaping not just our physical traits but also our predispositions to disease and mental health. This phenomenon, termed epigenetic transgenerational inheritance, reveals the astonishing capacity of our genetic material to carry forward echoes of the past, reminding us that our identities are intertwined with a lineage stretching far beyond our immediate family. If your great-grandparents lived through a famine, their experience could well have altered their genetic code, and 3 generations later you could well be showing signs of that change. The idea that our environment and lifestyle can alter how our genes behave is part of epigenetics. It has been described as a revolution in the way we think about the human blueprint. Recently, of great interest and controversy is the idea that epigenetics can be triggered by an event in one generation and passed on to 3 subsequent generations by a slightly altered gene function, even if they were not exposed to the initial trigger. Many studies in animals and humans have shown that effects of diet, stress, emotional deprivation, or hormones in the grandparents' generation can influence the traits and characteristics of grandchildren and great-grandchildren, even if they never met their ancestors and were never exposed to the initial event or diet. These changes in physical characteristics have been shown to be due to epigenetic changes that are passed across the generations. The first example is the Dutch hunger winter of 1944 to 1945. where a quarter of the Netherlands was starving for 3 months. Women who were pregnant then produced smaller children that were more prone to diabetes and schizophrenia, traits which were also more common in their grandchildren. Similar results came from a study of the Chinese famines of the 1950s, and in northern Sweden, where the effects of good and bad harvests on adolescent boys had opposite effects on cardiac risk in their grandchildren. Another study found that children born after the war to Holocaust survivors with post-traumatic stress disorder or PTSD were more likely to develop PTSD or depression themselves compared to other Jewish adults. These children also shared epigenetic markers with their parents on a gene that made them more reactive to stress. An ongoing longitudinal study in the United Kingdom that has followed thousands of young people and their parents. There is evidence that boys whose grandfathers smoked early in life had greater levels of obesity. More recently, an article published just last month in the Journal of Environmental Epigenetics by a team of scientists from Washington State University. In this published study, researchers exposed 3 successive generations of rats each to a single toxicant, in a bid to mimic the exposure of humans to different eras of chemicals. The first generation was exposed to the fungicide vinclozolin, a pesticide that kills various diseases on raspberries, lettuce, kiwi, and grapes. A known endocrine disruptor, vinclozolin can affect sex organ development and fertility, as well as delay puberty. A second generation of rats was exposed to a jet fuel hydrocarbon mixture, and gestating females from the third generation were exposed to the pesticide dichlorodiphenyl trichloroethane, also known as DDT, a dangerous pesticide which was manufactured during World War II. 3 additional, non-exposed generations were bred before the rats were examined. Washington State researchers looked for changes to their epigenome. The scientists observed compounded disease impacts over time, with toxicant exposure shifting each generation's epigenetics dramatically. The incidence of obesity, kidney disease, and prostate disease increased in each subsequent generation after the first toxicant exposure. By the time the rats were bred out to 3 unexposed generations, their risk of such conditions had risen by as much as 70%. Previous research has only examined the impacts of single-generation exposures to toxicants. What this study just found is that if multiple generations get different exposures, eventually there's an amplification or compounded effect on some diseases. Based on these findings, the researchers suggested that at least some of the current unexplained epidemics and common diseases we are facing could have their root caused to generations previously, when more people started smoking and lifestyles began changing. Although some critics dismiss the importance of epigenetics on diseases and personalities in humans, but to further stress the point, take for example the case of identical twins. Not just because they have the same DNA and genes in every cell of their body doesn't make them the same person. Most common diseases, although highly genetic, are not shared by identical twins, who only develop the same disease in 20 to 30% of cases, and they rarely die of the same disease. The reason for this disparity is the epigenetic differences between them. While a person's DNA is an important factor in the development of disease, these studies demonstrated that it's not as crucial as the epigenome. Now, a very interesting question is, can we heal our life through epigenetics? Experts indicated that while we can't change our DNA sequence, we can change our epigenome, pointing out that this is already happening in some areas of cancer treatment. There are already epigenetic therapy drugs that are being used in cancer that basically remodel our epigenome. There's lots of potential, and it's an incredibly exciting area. However, experts also emphasized that we need to understand a lot more about the building blocks and the functional consequences of what makes up the epigenome and how lifestyle and environment impacts on the epigenome. And until we know more, Following a healthy lifestyle and doing the things we know have a positive impact on our health, such as eating a good diet, avoiding alcohol, doing exercise, and keeping stress to a minimum is a good idea. Epigenetics is clearly important in humans and not just an epiphenomenon. We need to continue to understand how exactly it affects us and potentially how. Our environment and behavior now could affect our grandchildren in the future. So, the next time you look in the mirror or wonder about your family's history, remember, you are more than just the sum of your parts. You are the culmination of generations past, a testament to the enduring power of epigenetic transgenerational inheritance. Now, if you find this video interesting, please don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on all our latest content. This is your friend Gilo, signing off from Inquisitive Creation. Thank you so much for watching.